Welcome back, everybody. I know it's been a hot minute since I've done a video, but I got some fun content for you here today. You guys have seen the title, you've seen the thumbnail, you know what's going on in this video. I'd like to start this video off though with a huge thank you to CSN Morinville Auto Body. If you guys are in the Edmonton area, I'd strongly recommend you bring your cars to them for any kind of collision work. It's the only shop I trust my personal vehicles at. And being in a heavy duty shop, if I do get in a hit, my vehicles are coming right to this shop for any repairs. So I'd also like to throw a small thank you out to OK Tire in Morinville because they were super awesome about taking the tires off these, giving me the rims back, dealing with all that nonsense. All right, guys, so in today's video, we're gonna do some manga, cell shading, Borderland style, cartoon style, whatever you wanna call it, paint work on the wheels for my Golf Sport Wagon. Let's get to it. As you guys can see, these wheels aren't in the greatest shape to begin with. There's some gouges. I curbed the hell out of these wheels like a month after I bought this car, which is definitely didn't feel good, obviously, but that's why we're going to fix them now. So yeah, we got some pits to fill, a little bit of prep work to do. I think we're going to redo the center caps as well. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, we're just going to start off here, give them a quick wash using an old mitt. Just some McGuire's car wash or auto wash just to clean them up, get the dirt off them, and then we're going to hit them with some solvent degreaser as well. Alright guys, so I'll slow down the time lapses for just a minute here, do a little chatting with you, but I know I've been flying through the stuff so far. We're just removing the valve stems now. I'm just using a razor blade. This, not the best design. I don't know where my Olfa knife is though, I think it's inside. But you sort of want to get it in there between the sort of bulb part of the valve stem and the wheel. There we go, we're about halfway through. Just spin it around so I don't cut myself here. And just continue along, there we go. Doesn't take much, there's just rubber in there. Peel that guy off there. And pop the bottom out there. You can see the barrels of these two wheels are super clean. I did take just a scraper here and a little bit of gum wash and a paper towel to just clean up all of that bead sealant. I don't know if that's the proper term. It's been about 10 years since I actually worked in a tire shop. So any tire guys, if you can chime in there. We also have to remove our weights, because obviously it's going to get these are going to get rebalanced when they get reinstalled. You can use, again, just an Olfa knife. I was finding yesterday that this guy here, just going right underneath there, just being relatively careful to not scratch the inside of the barrel there too much. So now we're going to get into the prep work. I sort of skipped doing this beforehand because I really wanted to get everything in putty last night. So we're going to get into prep. We're just going to sort of go around the whole thing with 400 and then red scotch. Nothing fancy, stuff like this. It's just tedious, just getting into all these nooks and crannies, so we'll get on that. Here I'm using some 400 grit wrapped around a red scotch to prep the face of the wheel. And the reason I wrap it around that red scotch is to give it a bit of cushion so I don't end up finger sanding or leaving like deep finger-shaped grooves as I go along. Then I take that red scotch, I go around, hit all those nooks and crannies that the sandpaper won't squeeze into. And there we go. As you can see, there's no glossy spots left. Giving a quick blow. Once I do my final wipe down on this too, I'll see if there is any sneaky glossy spots. Maybe a little bit right in there. But overall, not too bad. That took me about 35 minutes for the face of the one wheel here. As far as what I'm actually going to be painting on these guys, I'm going to prep around the lip to about there, run a line in there. And then on the insides of these, I don't want to paint the whole inside, honestly. I don't see much point to it. These aren't any kind of deep dish rims. You can't really see the inside of the wheels when they're on the car very much, just because of how many spokes there are. So I'm actually just going to prep up to this line here going around. And honestly, I think that'll work well with the sort of cartoon theme. You'll sort of see the outer barrel, the inside being that gray color is going to be pretty muted. You're not really going to see much of it. So it'll just be like the outside of the wheels there, and that's that. So we'll go ahead, get the rest of these prepped, do a little masking, and then we'll get some primer on those putty spots. as you guys can see here, the stock center caps are in pretty rough shape. We got some flaking and stuff sort of in there, and just all around they don't look great. So we're going to take a little bit of heat here. And I'm taking my 4140 pry tool here. They have a really thin edge on them. And just get her in there under the edge. And just like that. Beautiful. So we've got our forward caps separated from our caps. And these guys are chrome. They're just like a super thin metal. Chrome coated, painted, clear coated, something. Painting on chrome sucks. Trying to prep it, you can hit it with like 40 grit and then prime it, and then it's still sort of dicey. You can sandblast it. I don't feel like sandblasting a super thin piece of metal like that. That's super thin. That's like 22 gauge-ish. Yeah, so those, we're not going to use those at all. We're going to use these guys because there's no reason not to. They're mostly smooth aside from this one divot in the middle. So what I'm going to do is hit this with 180 quick, dig into those little grooves by hand with 80, put a little skim of filler on there, tiny, actually some putty. We'll sand it smooth, and then we're going to prime these whole things and then sand them smooth. So being plastic, I know filler isn't necessarily designed to go on plastic, but again, this is something, it's not going to see any wear and tear really. It's extremely thin, like there's not much of a divot there. We just want to fill that little guy, and then we'll go from there. A better option would be to use like Fuser 142 or another plastic repair adhesive or filler. I don't have any on hand. That stuff's like 100, 120 bucks a tube. And honestly, not really necessary for something like this. It's just sort of for fun. All right, let's do that. Alright guys, so we're ready to prime here. I didn't film a couple steps just because it's getting late here and I was in a bit of a rush. So we've hit all the rims with a wax and grease remover, Proform's wax and grease remover. And then the center caps we did hit with a primer adhesion promoter for plastic. So that's all good to go. We've got about 8 ounces of Proform 2K direct metal urethane primer mixed up. Spraying out of a SATA 100 BF, and that's with a 1.8 tip. So we're gonna run it about 10 psi. It's gonna be super low. As you can see, I don't have like everything in the garage masked off, just the important stuff, but I will step out after I spray this stuff, let the overspray settle, and then we'll come in for a second coat. So we got 3 coats on there, waited about 15 minutes between coats as per the TDS for the Proform primer there. The third coat I went pretty light on the wheels. I wasn't too concerned about it. It was more for these center caps. They were a little rough. Obviously this part of the cap wasn't actually designed to be the visible part, but I think those will turn out nice when we're done. So we'll let these harden up for the next couple nights. We'll finish prep work elsewhere, and we'll go from there. Okay guys, so off camera I was able to finish prepping that one last wheel that didn't have any repairs on it. I finished scuffing this wheel. It's the one that I had sort of masked off just on the corner here. So everything's scuffed. We do have our primer we still have to sand. We're not getting too fancy here because I did block out my putty there, and there are no flat surfaces on these wheels. Like even these have a little bit of concave dip to them and little twists as they go. So we're not trying to get them like super flat like we would a car panel. So not going too crazy, just a red scotch backing our 400 grit paper here. And taking it nice and easy. You can fold it if you want to, get a little more rigidity out of it. And that's about all we're gonna do. We're just knocking the orange peel off that primer. Luckily it laid down pretty smooth there, so I'll just go over it like that. So we're gonna do this on all the wheels that we had primer on, and then for any nooks and crannies. So like say we sprayed over here, this one was masked off but the other ones weren't. Just gonna take that red scotch, just go over those other areas just to knock off any of the overspray. And same deal for our center caps, which actually, let's see if I can see that on camera there. Yeah, these actually turn out not too bad. You can see there's a little bit of a dimple still there, but we'll be able to knock that out in the primer. But aside from that, pretty happy with how these turned out. That was sort of lucky that I was able to pop those chrome caps off and get a nice surface to work with. So yeah, just a little something like that. I'm gonna throw a mask on here. I'm not gonna do too much sanding without it. Just wanted to talk to you guys, explain what I'm doing. As you can see, that orange peel, it's knocking off super easily. So in the middle there, it's completely gone, just a little more around the edges. But yeah, so we'll get that done, and then just sort of final cleanup. And then for the back of the wheels, I did it on one already. We are going to prep the inside of this lip here up to where we're gonna be spraying along the back of the spokes here. So yeah. We're almost there, guys. Home stretch. I've been on this project for like all of a week now. It's been pretty quick to get this done in the garage. And one thing I didn't mention is our primer's had about 3 days to dry now. This Proform primer, I think they say you can sand it in like an hour and a half or 2 hours at 70 degrees, something ridiculously quick like that, but it does always help to leave it a little bit longer if you're air drying it and not force drying it. So yeah, it's been about 3 days now, sanding nicely, coming out smooth. So yeah. So we've got our initial clean on the wheels there done. We're ready to start masking here. Nothing fancy, just some 18-inch masking paper, some FBS Pro Band fine line, and some 1.5" American PG tape. So VW wheels are hub centric, which means that this little mating surface has to be fairly clean. So we're gonna mask this lip from the top as well. So I'm not gonna worry about this being super clean here. Just a little something like that. And we're not going to be blasting the backside of the scopes like crazy, but there is going to be some spray on here. We're on the right side here, just going to back mask that hole for the valve stem. Yes, the reason I didn't go too crazy there from the bottom is that I can actually see the lip that I want to mask to from the top side here. The lip that I prepped to anyway. It's a big part with masking off the backside here too, at least the areas I didn't prep, is that it's like, yeah, if a little overspray gets on there, no one's going to see it, but they're going to see it if all that paint starts flaking off. All right, so that's it with the challenging masking on these. Pretty straightforward. Zoom out here for you. We'll mask the barrels now. This might get a little interesting because I have a nice foam pad to mask them at home for the primer. So, if you guys ever need to pull off a circular piece or a piece of masking paper that needs to go around something, remember pi 3.14? Circumference is pi times diameter. So the diameter times roughly 3, and you can eyeball 3 times the length there, the diameter, and that should give us roughly the right amount to go around. Just starting on a nice straight edge, and I'm just going to mask about a 1/4 inch below where I want my hard line in behind there, because we will go over that with that fine line afterwards. As you can see there, I'm just folding the paper over itself instead of having to cut it. Saves me a little bit of time, saves me risking cutting the wheel or scratching the wheel. Doesn't always work, you can just fold things underneath itself, but you can do it with poly as well. That's a nice way to keep it nice and relatively taut as well. And on this edge here, we're going to be masking up to that line right there. So as you can see, I've left a little over 1/4 inch, maybe 3/8 of an inch there. All right, yeah, one thing when your paper is crumpled and stuff like this, be aware of little spots like that. Actually, that one I think is probably okay, but sometimes you get little sneaky holes that the paint likes to fly through. All right, and there we go. How far are we in here? 12 minutes took me to do that. I was a little finicky figuring out how to get some of it done. So 12 minutes for that, and then we're going to just do our fine line around our edge. So fine line, it's a vinyl masking tape, and what it does is it'll cut heavier paints better once they're dried. So like clear coat. So once we throw clear on this, a lot of times if you use like just normal paper masking tape like this, like yeah, sometimes it'll peel off nice, but often instead of like tearing off nicely, it'll sort of rip along the edge, come off in a bunch of little pieces, sort of like that. When you're trying to unmask it, it'll just peel back, and it won't leave the nicest edge. That's where a fine line tape comes in handy. I personally really like the FBS stuff. I use 3M quite extensively as well, but FBS just makes a great product. No, this video isn't sponsored by them, but I just like their stuff. When you're laying fine line, it's always nice to leave yourself a little tail with a little fold over, so it's nice and easy to grab. Far enough back that if you start spraying, it's not going to flop into your paint, but you're able to just grab that guy, peel it off, because oftentimes you want to peel your fine line when your clear coat's sort of like tacked up, dust, like just when it's dust free, but not super hard yet. To leave a nice crisp edge. See, for longer lines like this, I just give myself a nice long section of tape, and I'm able to just drag it along, pull it right into the point where I want it. And there we go. In total, about 17 minutes to mask that one. The next couple will go a little quicker because I have a better idea of where I'm going to be going with everything. But yeah. Oh, it's been a long day, guys. Almost forgot to do my center caps here. It's nice being able to tape them to something that you can pick up, move around, manipulate the part as well as your gun to spray them. Something like this, cardboard, not the most ideal. I'm actually going to mask this off real quick as well because obviously a lot of dust can collect in these the corrugated sections of the cardboard. I have a couple hooks that I made myself. They're actually magnetic, so you can stick them to a booth wall and then pull them off, and you can hold little like bumper tow hook covers, things like that to them. Super handy. So something like this. These guys are a pretty easy mask. You got your little tabs on the back here, just wrapping around. Really hope I'm getting all this on camera. I can't see my screen. Then for these, the way I did that there, I can just go right over the edge and lock her down. Nice and easy. All right, guys, so masking's all done. Got our booth tidied up mostly. A few more pieces of paper there, get rid of those. I did give it another wash with the wax and grease remover, so we're all set to go aside from tacking. So we're gonna kick the booth on and mix some paint. All right, guys, I hope you can hear me okay here. It's a little noisy in the mixing room. So we are ready to mix our base. It's a Montana Big Sky, just a solvent-based base coat, relatively inexpensive. It's a 1-to-1 mix, so 1 part paint to 1 part base maker or producer. I'm gonna be using 2 guns here for a rather silly reason, because I only have a big cup and a little cup. If I had a medium cup, I would just use 1 gun. However, I want to be able to spray up and underneath those rims, so it's going to be a lot easier with the little cup for something like that, to just get up and underneath there. It's not going to take up too much space, obviously. And then for up top, we're just going to use the larger cup here. So we're going to mix, I think, about 16 ounces of paint. That's probably going to be lots. So this is a quart cup, 16 ounces is there. You know what, I might even do 20. It's probably going to take us 2 coats. Gonna be lots of finicky stuff. You get a lot of overspray on finicky stuff like this, where there's lots of little edges, you're feathering the trigger a lot. So yeah, let's mix our paint here. Give it a little shake. This is a mix I had done a few months ago, and then this is one that recently sent me because I figured I might need a little more. Alright. There we go. Alright, so being a 1-to-1 mix, we want 20 ounces, so we're going to go up to the 10 there. That should give us lots to get both coats done. I think it's going to take 2 coats. It might take more, but it's a pretty light colored silver that the rim started off as, and then the primer I use is also a relatively light color. So, cross our fingers. Yeah, so we went up to the 10 there. Now we're going to go up to the 20 with our base maker. There. Beautiful. We'll give that a good stir. Yeah, now that I look at it, it's always after I do the mix I look at it, it's like, yeah, that's going to be lots. So, it should be good. If you guys watch my video spraying the skateboards, I think I did with the metal flake, I think I did 2 coats of the black Montana. And I find white usually covers fairly well because the pigments in white are a lot thicker than a lot of other colors, but I haven't sprayed much Montana. Literally the only time I've sprayed it before is on that, or on those skateboards, so we'll see. I like trying new paints. It's one of the interesting things about this trade is there's so many different products you can use. So I'm gonna have to be careful pouring this. As you can see, the mesh is actually wider than the cup, so careful pouring this guy. Try to get you guys to see what I'm doing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Beautiful. If anyone's curious about the actual color I'm using here, it's GMC's 8624 Frost White, I think it's called. Summit White. 8624, its color's been around forever. So, and the reasoning for going with that color is that's just a white. I just asked a few months ago for this first mix to be done, and I just asked my paint guy to just get me some white. I wasn't picky. I just wanted something to play around with in the garage, and it's gonna be perfect. So, leave a little bit in our cup here. In case I need to fill up my little cup there again. Alright guys, let's go in the booth, we'll tack things off and start spraying. Alright guys, hope you can hear me again. It's a little noisy in the booth. I'm just going to go over how I tack off one wheel with you. I won't make you watch me do all 3 here. So for starters, got our tack cloth. It's a slightly waxy cloth. It's going to grab any dust that's left over on these things. I'm going to use my gun to blow while I'm tacking. One thing I can do though, I'm going to turn up my pressure just a little bit here, simply because these stands are a little dusty. They were in my garage. I neglected to mask them off, so I'm going to give them a good blow, top and bottom. That way, if there's any dust, we're just going to break that free and get it off of there. Alright, so we're just going to tack the bottom here. Hitting the backs of all those spokes. And while you're not going to see if there's any dust back there, if I'm spraying from underneath, it's going to kick dust up. If there's any back there, it's going to land on the top surface. We don't want it. So we're going to go to the top now. It's a little tedious, but you have to hit it all the nooks and crannies. Just like when we were washing down with our waxing piece remover. And it never hurts to go over your masking real quick too. Just in case there's any dust up on there. Yeah, you're going to take it out when you start spraying. I'll get the rest of these tacked off and we'll start painting. And guys, the last thing I'm going to do before we start spraying is give myself a quick tack with my gun. I'll do it on my other gun too when I pick it up there. One of your arms. especially anything that's going to be over top of the panel. So in this case, obviously my arm, my hose coming down here. This is a brand new hood, so there's probably going to be some lids on it from the factory. Is that ever satisfying, guys? Getting the first coat on there after putting a bunch of work into these things. So as you saw, I sort of started on one side, sprayed everything that I could see from the one side. Then I moved around to the other side, sprayed a little more, and came back to this side and sprayed from this side everything that I could see. And then I gave it one full coat just across the top. So that's how I like doing these things. The only time I actually fully pulled the trigger was when I was doing that final coat across the top. Anytime I'm hitting into these nooks and crannies, I'm always just feathering the trigger, meaning I'm only pulling it a little bit, so just letting a little bit of the fluid out. Alright guys, so guns are clean. I completely forgot to talk about the guns I was using earlier when we were getting going there. So underneath I was using my SATA 5000 HVLP. That's a 1.3 tip on that guy. And then on top, I grabbed the wrong gun. I meant to grab my 5000 1.4 HVLP, Phaser Edition. But I accidentally grabbed my Phaser Edition 5500, which is a 1.3 RP. So slightly different spray style, but hey, still worked, turned out nice. So those are the guns we used. Let's head in the booth, have a look at the wheels. So you guys can hear me now. The booth is turned off. I'm just gonna let these guys air dry overnight, and I'll explain why here, but let's have a look at them. I'm quite happy with how these turned out, nice and even, good coverage everywhere. I ended up doing that third coat just because I had the paint left over. These center caps I'm super stoked about. It's gonna look neat. All right, and then yeah, so my reason for leaving it overnight. So these are some test spray outs I did. Whenever you're doing custom stuff like this, guys, test. You're gonna go burn through some products. You're gonna have to buy some extra stuff. It's how it is. It's better than spending what I spent probably 20 hours on these wheels this week, and then getting to the paint stage and then having something like this happen. You don't want that to happen. So this sprayed at work. We just had a little leftover single stage, so I threw it on a spray out card that was not labeled, so it was useless anyway. So this was some single stage white. I was actually planning to do my wheels with this. A lot of single stages you can clear coat over. There is an open window. You can sometimes mask over them. That gets a little dicey though, but usually you have like a 24-hour window on a lot of single stages. And I figured I'd spray it, give it a couple hours to be dust free, put my marker on it, and it did not work. That marker cracked immediately because these paint markers, the Uniposcas, they are a water-based marker, and this is a solvent-based single stage, obviously. And yeah, that did not work. I didn't even bother clear coating this one. So I had a little Montana base coat. That was this guy here that I figured I would try it out on. And I sprayed my base coat. I applied the marker. As you can see, way better results off the break, but you get in close and there is some cracking there. Not horrible, but it is there. You don't see it from 5 feet away, 3 feet away, whatever, but it is there. It doesn't look great. And I had a little bit of flattening agent into my clear on this one. And then my third one here, I gave about 6 hours for the base to flash off. And the Montana's got a 24-hour recoat window, so that's well within our recoat window. And if you look real close, there we go, you can see there is a tiny bit of cracking. And that was the marker cracking on the base coat, not the clear coat. The clear coat didn't affect the marker at all, which is good. And I added a little more flattening agent into that. And I love that finish. However, these are wheels. They're gonna get scuffed. They're gonna get dirty. I wanted something easier, so we are gonna do a full gloss coat on this. Didn't help that the additive I was looking at was gonna be $160 for a quart, which would have been just enough to be able to spray these wheels, adding it into the clear I'm using. So we are gonna go with a full gloss look. I know that matte finish, it looks, or that satin sort of semi-gloss finish, it looks beautiful. It would look great on these wheels, especially in this style, but just the upkeep, not being able to polish them, if there's any issues, if I get any scuffs, not really being able to touch it up, figured it'd be way easier just to go with the gloss. So we're gonna leave these overnight, guys. Well, it'll be instant for you, but I'll see you in the morning. And it's the next morning here, guys. That was nice and quick for you. Got our markers here, our Uni Poscas. These are the 8mm chisel tips. Oop. As you can see there. So yeah, I'm gonna put you on a stand. We're gonna go through, we're going to cartoon these up. And I've got no idea how long it's gonna take, guys, but let's just have some fun. And there's the first one done, guys. I'm pretty happy with that. I'm super happy with that, not gonna lie. Yeah, so more or less all I did, just go around all your lines, like all the body lines, all the edges, and then just add some accents in here and there. Yeah, there we go. Let's finish off the rest of these. We'll do one of those center caps first. So, small update, got 3 wheels done. Halfway through the third wheel, I switched to a new marker. The marker itself was still going strong, but the tip was starting to fray on the old one. You can see sort of the like rough ends there. I'll touch those up with the fresh marker. But yeah, we'll get this fourth one done, then we're ready for clear. And it's time to mix some clear, guys. We're gonna be using Durafil's TurboFill C9500. I've used this in a few other videos. Really good bang for your buck as far as clear goes. We're gonna mix up a decent amount because yesterday when we were spraying our base, I mixed the initial 20 ounces and then I mixed another 16 ounces. So we're gonna mix at a 4-to-1 ratio here. We're gonna mix, I think, a full quart here. Or maybe not quite a full quart, but right up to there. And that'll definitely get us to our first coat and we'll see where we're at from there. Whenever I mix clear, actually any product, paint, primer, whatever, I always make sure I have enough for at least the first coat. As long as you can get your first coat on there, then you're good. You don't like to, or I don't like to be mixing halfway through a coat because then you get a potential dry edge, modeling, just nothing good, nothing good. So add our 4-to-1 here. And this is a fast drying clear, so I'm gonna have to move quickly. Won't have to leave too much flash time between coats. More or less by the time I finish the first, or by the time I finish the set of wheels, I should be good to more or less come back and start spraying the first wheel again, so. I don't know how you guys are. I know some painters would just throw this immediately into a thing of gum wash. I like to give it a wipe first. Just make sure your stir sticks are clean. Beautiful. All right. So, using the same gun we used for base yesterday. This is normally my clear gun. Long day yesterday. Long day. In case you didn't catch it earlier, it's a SATA 5500 1.3 RP. It is the Phaser edition. Just means it's fancy and extra expensive for no particular reason other than it looks cool, but they spray exactly the same as a normal 5500. And there we go, guys. I'm pretty happy with that. And the last thing we're going to take care of here before taking off. So it's been like half hour since I sprayed. This stuff is quick, nice and dry. And as you can see, that fine line is going to peel nice and clean. Just because that clear, it's definitely dust free, still a little bit soft at this point. And that's sort of the ideal time to peel it back. As you can see, my finger's not sticking to it at all. Nothing, but again, still, like you can feel it's a little soft. So I'll take care of that. Tomorrow I'll come in, unmask everything, and yeah. And for the final touch, thank you so much for joining me today, guys. It was a blast doing this, and I'm glad I was able to share it with you. If you guys enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. And again, see you in Morinville. Thank you so much. OK Tire in Morinville, thank you as well. You guys have a great day. See you next time.